Okay, Dalton, we're back. And I know the word sleeper. It's almost a dirty word now because it has such a different definition. One person's sleeper is another person's value pick. But the bottom line is sleeper basically to some degree means a player who isn't drafted early, who has a good chance to outkick his ADP and maybe be a significant asset to your team. So I'll start here. A couple of guys. We haven't mentioned these players. We won't talk about them too much. I think Justin Fields is going to play at some point. He won't be drafted in most leagues. He shouldn't be drafted in the majority of leagues, but some deeper formats, he'll make sense. In that 400 pick draft I do later this summer, I'll probably try to target him. I hope nobody in that league is listening, but I just think we're going to see 5 or 7 or 8 Justin Fields games. And who knows? I don't even think it's out of the question he could be the starter on opening day because I have such little faith in Russell Wilson these days. And he's just a classic Konami code guy. And Jaden Daniels, does he even count as a sleeper anymore? I know there's a lot of helium there, but we talked about the differences between him and Richardson and the overlap between him and Richardson. And if you like that type of player, I realize Steichen is a wizard. I don't know if I trust Cliff Kingsbury at all, but so that's a big part of it for sure. But I want Jaden Daniels in some of my rosters. I have to have some exposure to him. So there's a couple of sleepers on my page. Why don't you tell us some of the sleepers on the Dalton page?
So I'm with you on both of those. Fields, like I said, if he were named starter today, I'd move him to my QB 14, right behind Caleb Williams. And maybe that, and he'll probably even would finish higher than that if he started all the games. So big news there on who gets the starting job in Pittsburgh. Gino Smith, I'll go even deeper. He's going undrafted in Yahoo leagues, took a big step back last year, at least ostensibly, but he quietly finished top 10 in success rate in a clean pocket and under pressure, led the league in big time throw percentage on deep passes for the second straight year, while recording the 4th best pressure to sack ratio behind an awful offensive line that has improved. Seahawks produced the fewest plays in the league last year. Crazy unsustainable third down rate on both sides of the ball. Their first preseason game suggested the opposite. I think they had the most plays week 1. Ryan Grubb is using more motion. They're going to be extremely aggressive. It's clear that Jackson Smith and Jigba was just misused as a rookie, returning from that wrist surgery. You got Metcalf, Lockett, a healthy JSN. Gino's 1 year removed from leading the NFC in passing touchdowns and is going undrafted in like 94% of Yahoo leagues. I mean, he's a sleeper among many here at the quarterback position.
So before we get to the quarterbacks we're most likely to roster, and before we get to the final piece of quarterback advice, doing pretty good on time. And I know there's probably a lot of we can't talk about every quarterback, but there's a couple of quarterbacks we haven't mentioned at all. And I think we have time for a really quick speed round. And we're talking 1-2 sentences at most. I'm going to say a quarterback, and I just want you to tell me just first thing comes to mind for his fantasy prospect. We haven't talked about Patrick Mahomes, who's just maybe the signature player of the league. The Chiefs are trying to go for a 3-peat. Hollywood Brown is down for a little bit, but he's been an interesting ad. They drafted Worthy. Rashee Rice, it sounds like he might not be suspended. Give me a quick hit on Patrick Mahomes.
Mahomes is the GOAT, but the Chiefs are playing to win, their 3rd straight Super Bowl title. I think they're playing for the playoffs. They're definitely obviously improved their receivers last year. Mahomes suffered the most air yards lost by drops. He's awesome. I hate talking bad about Mahomes. I just don't see him running a lot in the regular season, and he's going 30 picks behind Anthony Richardson. I mean, Mahomes wasn't a top 12 fantasy QB last year, so no, I don't like his ADP.
That was an outlier for an Andy Reid offense. They're never going to be that bad again.
Yeah,
I don't think anyway.
That's true. No, he's the man. He calls his number down inside the 10 too. I get it, but I personally would rather a guy who goes later.
You know who doesn't call his number inside the 10 is Lamar Jackson. Maybe the best true pure runner at this position, but he doesn't score a lot of rushing touchdowns, and that's a big reason why quarterback 4 on my board. And I feel like I'm never going to draft him. What say you?
Yeah, and they added Derrick Henry. I mean, I know Gus Edwards did benefit from a lot of those short ones, but Henry could have even more rushing touchdowns taken away from Lamar. Lamar's fine getting drafted in the 5th round. I think that's about right, and it makes sense. But again, I just love AR even around later.
CJ Stroud, my quarterback 6, another victim of the depth at this position. I mean, they added Stephon Diggs for whatever he's got going, and I know that he'll be in the slot, easier throws, but they have Nico Collins, they have Tank Dell. Joe Mixon will be a part of the offense, but I can't imagine how he would dominate the offense. It's not that I don't love Stroud. I just feel like there's better value opportunities. So he's somebody's. I hate to say I'm fading CJ Stroud because I love the guy, but it's just I think there's better buying opportunities at ADP. How do you feel about CJ Stroud?
CJ Stroud might win the MVP this season. He's awesome. What he did as a rookie was the real deal and then some, because it was even underreported. He suffered multiple concussions and really his stats suffered in the games if you were paying attention to right afterward. I think Stroud is arguably the number 1 player in the NFL if you were to start a draft today, given his age, maybe behind Mahomes still, whatever. Number 2. That said, in fantasy, let me repeat, Anthony Richardson matched CJ Stroud's weekly top 5 finishes last year, and Richardson played like 11 quarters. I mean, it's just the running is the cheat code here, and the Houston could have a top 10 defense. I just think the lack of running makes him more my QB7 in fantasy, when in real life, like I said, he should be the second player off the board if we were starting a franchise today.